A terrified old man, speaking only Japanese, is being dragged out of the 5-star Grand Elysium Hotel by security. The manager sneers, the guests laugh, and the front desk staff roll their eyes. They think he's a nobody, a lost tourist who wandered in off the street. They are all wrong. He's Kellen Tanaka, a reclusive billionaire worth more than the entire hotel chain, and he's trying to stop a $10 billion corporate theft that's happening upstairs. He's failing, until Anna, the invisible waitress wiping tables in the corner, drops her tray and answers him in perfect, fluent Japanese, exposing a secret that will destroy them all. The Grand Elysium Hotel wasn't just a building. It was a monument to wealth. Its lobby was a cathedral of Italian marble and vaulted ceilings, with a 3-story chandelier that dripped crystal teardrops. The air itself smelled expensive. A custom blend of white tea, bergamot, and, Anna O'Connor suspected, the faint metallic scent of judgment. Anna knew judgment well. She felt it every time she clocked in, trading her worn-out sneakers for the hotel-issued black orthopedic shoes that squeaked on the polished floors. At 29, Anna was the holder of a master's degree in international finance, a fluent speaker of 3 languages, and the former chief analyst for one of Tokyo's most aggressive equity firms. Here, at the Grand Elysium in New York, she was just Anna, the waitress. She was invisible, and that's how she'd wanted it. For 2 years, she had meticulously scrubbed her past from the internet, changed her hair, and learned to walk with her shoulders slumped, her eyes downcast. She was hiding from the scandal, from the betrayal, from the man who had taken her brilliant Tokyo life and burned it to the ground, leaving her to take the fall. Her new life was a monotonous loop of clearing half-eaten $75 truffle omelets, polishing silverware until her fingers ached, and absorbing the casual condescension of her supervisors. The worst of them was Joel Harrison, the hotel's general manager. Harrison was a man who wore his bespoke suits like armor. He didn't walk, he glided, his nose perpetually in the air, sniffing out imperfections. He lived for celebrity guests and 5-star reviews. To him, staff like Anna were unfortunate, but necessary, pieces of furniture. "Anna," he'd snapped just that morning, his voice cutting through the lobby bustle. "Table 4. They've been waiting for their water for 30 seconds. Is that the Elysium standard?" "No, Mr. Harrison. My apologies." She had hurried over, avoiding the gaze of the tech CEO at the table, who was complaining loudly about the speed of the hotel's Wi-Fi. Her only semi-ally was Sarah, a concierge who was too tired to be ambitious. "Don't let him get to you," Sarah had muttered, as Anna refilled the water pitcher. "He's wound tight today. The Global Innovators Summit starts this morning. The whole hotel is booked with billionaires and their egos." Anna just nodded. Egos were something she understood. She'd worked with them, managed them, and been destroyed by one. Now, she just served them. As she cleared plates, she overheard Jessica, the lead at the front desk, talking animatedly to Sarah. Jessica was all sharp angles and sharper ambition, her blonde hair pulled into a severe bun. "And he's in the penthouse, Sarah," Jessica gushed, leaning over the marble counter. "A Mr. Matteo Reed. He's representing Tanaka Global Holdings for the big merger. He's divine. Tipped me $100 just for getting him an extra charging cable." Anna's blood didn't just run cold, it froze solid in her veins. Matteo Reed. The name echoed in her head, a gunshot in a silent room. She felt the blood drain from her face. Her hand, holding a heavy silver tray, began to tremble. It couldn't be. Not him. Not here. Matteo Reed. The man who had smiled at her while he systematically rerouted 50 million, the man who had forged her digital signature, the man who had sat in a Tokyo boardroom, looking sympathetic as she was accused of corporate espionage and embezzlement. The man she had fled a continent to escape. "Anna, are you all right?" Sarah asked, noticing her pale face. Anna forced a breath into her lungs. "Fine," she choked out. Just tired." She turned and fled to the momentary sanctuary of the service corridor, leaning against the cool metal wall. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. He was here, in this building, and according to Jessica, he was representing Tanaka Global. "He won," Anna whispered to the empty hallway. After destroying her, he had failed upward. He was now handling a merger for one of the most powerful and reclusive families in Japan. He was in the penthouse, while she was in the basement. The injustice of it tasted like ash in her mouth. She wanted to run. She wanted to pack her small bag in her tiny apartment and disappear again. But where would she go? She was done running. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and pushed the service door open. She would finish her shift. She would take her pay. She would remain invisible. Matteo Reed was in the penthouse. He would never, ever look down long enough to see a waitress. She was safe, she told herself. She was invisible. The lobby of the Grand Elysium was operating at its peak, a finely tuned orchestra of quiet efficiency. Mr. Harrison patrolled the perimeter like a nervous conductor, adjusting a floral arrangement here, glaring at a fingerprint on a brass railing there. The Global Innovators Summit meant the hotel's reputation was on the line. At 9:45 a.m., the automatic glass doors slid open and the orchestra stopped. The man who entered was not a guest, according to the Elysium's unspoken code. He was a problem. He was perhaps in his late 60s, with a shock of unruly grey hair. He wore a simple, slightly wrinkled linen suit, not the dark navy wool preferred by the summit attendees. He wasn't flanked by assistants or security. He was alone, and he looked deeply, profoundly agitated. He bypassed the polite greeting of the doorman and marched directly to the front desk, where Jessica was perfecting her customer service smile for a venture capitalist. The man cut right in front. "Sumimasen," he said, his voice sharp with urgency. "Hayaku, penthouse ni, Reed-san wa." "Excuse me, quickly, to the penthouse. Mr. Reed is—" Jessica's smile faltered, becoming a painted-on mask of confusion. "Sir? I'm sorry, I'm with another guest. If you'd like to wait." The man slapped his hand on the marble counter, silencing her. "Mate kudasai." He pulled out his phone and frantically tapped the screen, showing her a photo. It was a corporate headshot of a handsome, smiling man. "Kono otoko, Matteo Reed, kare wa." He made a stop motion with his hands. "Dame, sagishi desu." This man, Matteo Reed, he is a fraud. Jessica, who spoke only English and high school level Spanish, recoiled. "Sir, I don't understand you. Please, you're disrupting our other guests." The venture capitalist huffed. "Can't you handle this?" "Security," Jessica hissed into her earpiece. "Code 3 in the lobby." The man heard the word security, and his panic visibly escalated. He looked around, his eyes wild. "Chigao! Chigao!" "Wrong! Wrong!" He pointed at the elevators. "Penthousu! Ima!" "Penthouse! Now!" Across the lobby, Anna was clearing a breakfast tray. She heard the Japanese before she saw the man. It was a precise, slightly formal dialect, the kind she'd heard in boardrooms in Tokyo. She froze, the coffee cups rattling on her tray. Mr. Harrison glided over, his face a mask of polite fury. "Sir," he said, in the loud, slow voice people reserve for toddlers and foreigners, "this is a private hotel. You need a reservation." "Mr. Harrison," Jessica interrupted, He keeps saying penthouse and showing me a picture of Mr. Reed. Harrison's expression darkened. A deranged fan? A stalker? This was a disaster. Sir, I am going to have to ask you to leave. Now. The man looked at Harrison's condescending face and let out a string of Japanese, too fast for Anna to catch completely, but she clearly heard the words arrogant, incompetent, and disaster. That's it, Harrison snapped. Two security guards, Mike and Dave, lumbered over from their post. Sir, please come with us, Mike said, putting a heavy hand on the man's shoulder. This was the final straw. The man, small but wiry, tried to shrug off the guard's grip. Sawaru na. Don't touch me. Watashi wa Tanaka da. Kellen Tanaka. I am Tanaka. Kellen Tanaka. The name meant nothing to the guards. It meant nothing to Harrison, who only knew the name Mateo Reed. To Anna it was like a bomb had gone off. Kellen Tanaka. Not a Tanaka. The Tanaka. The reclusive, almost mythical CEO of Tanaka Global Holdings. The man who never appeared in public. The man Mateo Reed was supposedly representing, and the hotel staff was about to physically eject him from the lobby. She watched in dreamlike horror as the guards began to grip his arms, preparing to drag him out. Mr. Tanaka looked desperate, his eyes scanning the room for anyone who could understand. His eyes met Anna's. She was just a waitress, holding a tray, her face pale. But she was the only one in the room not looking at him with contempt or confusion. She was looking at him with dawning, horrified recognition. He tried to lunge toward her, but the guards held him fast. Anna's mind raced. This is not your business. Stay invisible. Don't get involved. He's here. Reed is here. Getting involved will expose you. You'll lose this job. You'll be found. But she saw the raw panic in Mr. Tanaka's eyes. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was, as he'd said, a sagishi, a fraud. She knew exactly who the fraud was. Mateo was upstairs, in the penthouse, pretending to be this man's representative, and the real Mr. Tanaka was being treated like a criminal in the lobby. The guards began to pull him toward the door. No, Anna whispered. Then, louder, no. She took one step forward, then another. Mr. Harrison saw her approaching. Anna, get back to your station. This is a security matter. She ignored him. The sound of her squeaking orthopedic shoes on the marble floor was deafeningly loud. She stopped 5 feet from the chaos. Mr. Tanaka was still struggling. Yamete! Anna's voice, clear and sharp, cut through the lobby. Stop! Everything stopped. The guards froze. Jessica's hand flew to her mouth. Mr. Harrison, in the middle of a sentence, simply stopped breathing. Anna looked directly at Mr. Tanaka. She bowed, not a waitress's perfunctory nod, but a deep, respectful, 30-degree Japanese bow. And then, in flawless, formal keigo, the language of business and high respect, she spoke. Tanaka-sama, she said, her voice shaking only slightly. My deepest apologies. I am Anna, a member of the hotel staff. How may I be of assistance? The silence in the lobby of the Grand Elysium was absolute. It was as if Anna had pulled a fire alarm and frozen time simultaneously. Mr. Harrison's face, which had been a blotchy, angry red, drained to a sickly, confused white. Jessica looked at Anna as if she had suddenly sprouted a second head. The security guards, Mike and Dave, slowly released their grip on Mr. Tanaka's arms, looking to Harrison for guidance. But Harrison was speechless. Mr. Tanaka, who had been breathing heavily, went completely still. His wild, panicked eyes focused on Anna with laser intensity. He stared at her for a long second. This slip of a girl in a black and white uniform, who had just addressed him with the honorifics and linguistic precision of a high-level corporate attaché. Relief washed over his face. so profound it was almost painful to watch. It was the look of a drowning man who had just found a life raft. He replied instantly, the words tumbling out of him in a torrent of urgent, agitated Japanese. "Ana-san," he said, bowing his head back to her, a gesture of respect that stunned the staff. "You understand Japanese? Truly? Thank heavens." He gestured frantically toward the elevators, then back at the front desk. "I am Kellen Tanaka, the president of Tanaka Global. I am here for a merger treaty, but the hotel staff will not listen to me. The man in the penthouse, that Matteo Reed, he is a fraud. He is not my representative. He is planning to steal everything." Anna listened intently, her face pale but composed. She nodded, absorbing every word. Her own fear was a cold knot in her stomach, but Mr. Tanaka's desperation was a fire that burned hotter. She had to translate. She had to see this through. She turned to face Mr. Harrison. Her entire demeanor had changed. The slump was gone. Her spine was straight. Her eyes, which she usually kept trained on the floor, were now level and sharp. "Mr. Harrison," she said, her voice clear and carrying across the hushed lobby. Harrison flinched, as if she'd slapped him. "Anna, what is the meaning of this? Who is this man?" "This," Anna said, "is Mr. Kellen Tanaka. He is the president and CEO of Tanaka Global Holdings." The name Tanaka Global landed like a physical blow. Harrison's eyes widened. That's impossible. Mr. Tanaka is not represented by Matteo Reed," Anna cut in, her voice hardening. "This gentleman, the real Mr. Tanaka, is here for his 10 a.m. merger meeting. A meeting he says Mr. Reed is currently attempting to sabotage." Jessica gasped from behind the desk. "But Mr. Reed had all the paperwork, the reservation. It was all confirmed by the Tanaka Corporation." "Of course it was," Anna said, a bitter edge to her voice. "He's very, very good at what he does." Mr. Tanaka spoke again, this time more slowly, pointing at Harrison. "Kare ni tsutaete kudasai," he said to Anna. "Ano otoko wa watashi no meiwaku o marude mushi shita. Kare wa watashi o gomi no yo ni atsukai, kaibi o yonda. Moshi mo watashi no keiyaku ga shippai shitara, kare no sekinin desu." Anna took a steadying breath. This was the moment of no return. "Mr. Tanaka says," she translated, her gaze locked on the terrified manager, "that you ignored his distress, that you treated him like garbage and called security. He says that if this merger fails, it will be entirely your fault." Harrison's professional veneer cracked completely. He began to sweat, wiping his suddenly clammy hands on his suit trousers. I had no idea. He had no identification. He was causing a scene. He was trying to tell you that a multi-billion-dollar act of corporate fraud was happening under your roof," Anna snapped. The waitress was gone, replaced by the analyst. "What do we do?" Harrison whispered, his authority evaporating. He was looking at Anna for instructions. "You will escort us to the penthouse suite. Immediately," Anna commanded. "Mike, Dave," she said, turning to the bewildered guards. "You're with us. This time you'll be protecting Mr. Tanaka, not assaulting him." "Yes, ma'am," Mike said, his voice shaky. "And you," Anna said, pointing a trembling finger at Jessica. "You will call the office of Mr. David Brown. He's the CEO of Apex Capital, the other party in this merger. Tell his team there is a security breach, and he is not to sign anything until we arrive." "Right away," Jessica fumbled for the phone. "Anna-san," Mr. Tanaka said, touching her arm. "There is no time." "He's right," Anna said to Harrison. "The meeting started at 10 a.m. It's 10:05. We have to go now." Harrison, now looking like a ghost, nodded dumbly and led the way to the executive elevator. The small group, The billionaire, the waitress, the disgraced manager, and the two sheepish guards stepped inside. The mirrored doors slid shut, reflecting the most bizarre team-up the Grand Elysium had ever seen. As the elevator began its silent, high-speed ascent to the penthouse, the air crackled with tension. Mr. Tanaka looked at Anna. He was calm now, his panic replaced by a cold, appraising focus. "Anata wa," he said quietly, in Japanese. "Tada no waitressu de wa arimasen ne." "You are not just a waitress, are you?" Anna met his gaze in the reflection. "E Tanaka-sama," she replied, her voice low. "So de wa arimasen." "No, Mr. Tanaka, I am not." The secret she had guarded for 2 years was out, and she was riding an elevator toward the very man who had forced her to create it. The ride to the penthouse was the longest 60 seconds of Anna's life. The elevator was silent, save for the subtle whoosh of its ascent and Mr. Harrison's shallow, panicked breathing. Anna's mind, however, was deafeningly loud. Matteo Reed. She saw his face in her mind, the charming smile, the expensive watch, the disarmingly casual way he could ruin a person. He had been her mentor in Tokyo. She had admired him. He'd taught her the ropes, praised her analytical models, and then used that very access to build a back door into the company's accounts, a back door he'd framed her for building. She remembered the meeting room, the pale, grim faces of the Japanese executives, the printouts with her forged signature. Matteo sitting beside her, patting her hand. "I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding, Anna," he'd said, his eyes full of false sympathy. "Just tell them what you did." By the time she'd realized he was the architect of her demise, it was too late. She was fired, her work visa revoked. She was facing criminal charges. She'd used the last of her savings to flee the country, returning to the US under a cloud of shame so thick it had blotted out her future. And now, fate, or some cruel cosmic joke, had placed him in the same building. He wasn't just here, he was executing another, even larger, heist. He was impersonating the representative of one of the most powerful men in Asia. Mr. Tanaka broke the silence, his voice low and tactical, speaking in Japanese. "Anna-san, this man, Reed. How do you know him?" The elevator doors were still closed. The air was thick. "I worked for him," Anna replied, her voice tight, "at his subsidiary firm in Shinjuku, 2 years ago. He is the reason I am no longer in finance. He is the reason I am a waitress." Mr. Tanaka's eyes widened. The pieces clicked into place for him. He had not just found a translator. He had found a witness. "So, you know how he operates." "Better than anyone," Anna said, her voice turning to ice. "He's a phantom. He uses charm and forged credentials to get inside, identifies a single, high-value transaction, and then diverts the funds at the last possible second. He must have intercepted the communications between your office and Mr. Brown's, then inserted himself as the proxy. My team, my Tokyo team, flagged him," Tanaka muttered, more to himself than to Anna. "They said a Matteo Reed had been making inquiries. By the time I realized what he was planning, I was already on a plane. I came here directly, without my security, to stop it personally. I never imagined—" He looked at Harrison with pure contempt. "I never imagined I would be locked out by idiots." The elevator chimed softly. Penthouse. The doors slid open. They weren't in a hallway, but in the private foyer of the main suite. The scene in front of them was horrifyingly cordial. The suite was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. In the center of the room, 2 men were seated on plush velvet sofas, champagne flutes in hand. One was a sharp-looking man in his 50s, with a confident, relaxed air. This, Anna assumed, was David Brown, CEO of Apex Capital. The other was Matteo Reed. He looked exactly the same. Expensive suit, perfect hair, a smile that could disarm a battalion. He was in the middle of a sentence, laughing. "And so," Matteo said, raising his glass, "to a new era, Mr. Brown. On behalf of Mr. Tanaka, we are thrilled." "Joel," he interrupted himself, seeing the manager. His smile widened. "Perfect timing. We're just celebrating. Bring us another bottle of the Dom, would you? Mr. Brown and I are—" His voice trailed off. His eyes moved past Harrison's pale, trembling form. He saw the two security guards. He saw the older Japanese man standing beside them, his face like a thundercloud. Matteo Reed's smile didn't just fade, it shattered. "Mr. Tanaka," he whispered, his own face losing all its color. He hadn't expected the man himself. He clearly thought Tanaka was 13 hours away in Tokyo. David Brown looked up, confused. "Matteo, what's going on? Who are these people?" But Matteo wasn't looking at Brown. His gaze had drifted past Mr. Tanaka, past the guards, and had finally, fatally, landed on Anna. He saw her, the waitress uniform, the name tag, the face he thought he'd erased from the financial world forever. The blood drained from his face so fast he looked like a corpse. The champagne flute slipped from his fingers and shattered on the thick rug, a sound that was shockingly loud in the sudden, terrible silence. "Anna," he breathed, his voice a disbelieving croak. "Anna O'Connor, what in God's name?" The game was up. He knew it. She knew it. "Hello, Matteo," Anna said, and she was surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "It's been a long time." For a full 10 seconds, the penthouse suite was frozen. David Brown, the COO of Apex Capital, looked between the shattered glass, the furious Japanese billionaire, the terrified hotel manager, and the man he thought was his partner, who was now staring at a waitress as if he'd seen a ghost. "Matteo," David Brown said, his voice finally hardening. He stood up. "What the hell is going on? Who is this man? And why is my 10 a.m. meeting being interrupted by hotel staff?" Matteo Reed, to his credit, was a world-class predator. His panic lasted only a moment before the mask of charm and authority snapped back into place. He gave a short, condescending laugh, though his eyes were still fixed on Anna. "David, my apologies." "Joel," he said, turning to Harrison, "you have got to get your security under control. This gentleman," he said, gesturing at Mr. Tanaka, "is a known eccentric, a disgruntled former shareholder from years ago. He shows up now and then. And her." He finally looked at Anna, his gaze dripping with venom. "This is Anna O'Connor, a disgruntled ex-employee of mine from my Tokyo office. Fired for cause. Embezzlement, actually. It seems she's tracked me down. This is a coordinated harassment campaign. Joel, remove them. Now." Harrison, caught between two terrifying forces, just wrung his hands. "Mr. Reed, sir, this gentleman claims he is Kellen Tanaka." "And I claim I'm the Emperor of Japan," Matteo laughed, walking over to put a reassuring hand on David Brown's shoulder. "David, please. Let's not let this circus derail us. The deal is set. Let's sign the papers and I'll have my personal security deal with this." David Brown looked uncertain. He wanted this deal, but the man who claimed to be Tanaka, he had an aura of power that Matteo, for all his charm, suddenly lacked. "I think," Brown said slowly, "we should hear him out." "He doesn't even speak English," Matteo scoffed. Mr. Tanaka, who had been watching this exchange with a look of profound disgust, finally spoke. He addressed Anna in Japanese. "Anna-san, tsutaite kudasai." "Miss Anna, please translate." Anna nodded, stepping forward. The entire room's focus shifted to her. The invisible waitress was now the center of gravity. "Mr. Brown," Anna said, her voice ringing with an authority that stunned Harrison. "My name is Anna O'Connor. This gentleman is Mr. Kellen Tanaka, the sole proprietor and CEO of Tanaka Global Holdings. He is here to stop this merger." "Stop it!" Brown was aghast. "We've been negotiating for 6 months." "You've been negotiating with him," Anna said, pointing at Matteo. "Not with Tanaka Global. Mr. Tanaka flew here today to stop you from signing documents that he believes are fraudulent." "She's a liar!" Matteo shouted. "She's a fired, disgraced analyst, a criminal. You can't possibly take the word of a waitress over mine." "Is she?" David Brown asked, his eyes narrowing. He was a smart man. He hadn't gotten to be CEO of Apex Capital by being a fool. "She seems to know a lot." "And you," he said, turning to Matteo, "seem to know her very well. You're sweating, Matteo." Matteo wiped his brow, his composure finally cracking. "This is insane." "Mr. Brown?" Anna continued, her voice cold and precise. "Mr. Reed is correct about one thing. I was an analyst in his Tokyo firm. What he failed to mention is that I was fired because I was investigating him. He framed me for a $50 million embezzlement scheme to cover his own market losses. He is a professional thief, and he is doing it again, right now, but on a much larger scale." "Prove it," Matteo snarled. "I will," Anna said. She turned to Mr. Tanaka and spoke in Japanese. "Tanaka-sama, the deal documents, where are they?" Mr. Tanaka pointed to the large mahogany table. "Brown-Sand's briefcase." Anna walked to the table. "Mr. Brown, may I?" David Brown, his face now grim, nodded. "Go ahead." Matteo tried to step in her way. "You can't touch those. Those are confidential." "Dave," Anna said to the security guard, not even looking at Matteo. The guard, now firmly on Team Anna, put a massive hand on Matteo's chest, stopping him cold. Anna opened the heavy leather briefcase. Inside was a thick, leather-bound portfolio. She opened it to the final page, the signature block and the wiring instructions. She read it for a moment, her analyst's brain firing on all cylinders. "Mr. Brown," she said, without looking up. "The routing number. It's not to a bank in Tokyo. It's to a Tanaka Holdings shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands. Am I correct?" David Brown's face went white. He grabbed the document from her. He stared at the wiring instructions. The account name is Tanaka Global NA, LLC. The registration number is... Oh my God. "It's a shell," Anna said simply. "The money would have been transferred at 10:30 a.m., in 5 minutes. By 10:31, the account would be empty, transferred to a dozen other offshore accounts, and Matteo Reed would be on a private jet to a non-extradition country. The deal would be dead, and Apex Capital would be out $10 billion. Isn't that right, Matteo?" All eyes turned to Matteo. He was trapped. The charm was gone. All that was left was the predator, cornered. He looked at Anna. His eyes were no longer full of charm, but of pure, unadulterated hatred. "You bitch," he whispered. "You ruined everything." He didn't lunge for the door. He lunged for her. It was a mistake. Mike and Dave, the two guards who had, an hour ago, been manhandling Mr. Tanaka, were now his protectors. They intercepted Matteo in a single, practiced motion. They had him on his stomach, his hands pinned behind his back, before his champagne-fueled rage could even reach her. "Get him off me," Matteo screamed, his voice muffled by the $20,000 Persian rug. "You're all fired. You'll never work in this city again." Mr. Harrison, who had been hiding near the elevator, finally found his voice, seeing the tide had turned. "Mr. Reed, you are under arrest for fraud and assault. The police are on their way." David Brown sank into his chair, the document shaking in his hand. He looked at Mr. Tanaka. I am profoundly sorry. I was fooled. Mr. Tanaka just nodded, his face grim. He looked at Anna, then at Matteo, who was still struggling. Then, Mr. Tanaka did the most unexpected thing of all. He smiled. He looked at David Brown, and in perfect, unaccented English, he spoke for the first time. "Do not worry, Mr. Brown. It seems we have caught our thief." The shift in the room was electric. David Brown's head snapped up. Mr. Harrison, who was on the phone with the police, dropped the receiver. Even Matteo, pinned to the floor, stopped struggling for a second. "You," David Brown stammered, staring at Mr. Tanaka. "You speak English?" "Of course I do," Mr. Tanaka said, walking over to the window and looking out over Central Park. "I went to Stanford. It is very difficult to run a global corporation if you cannot speak the language of global finance." Anna wasn't surprised. She'd suspected as much. His use of Japanese had been too precise, too formal. It wasn't the broken, desperate plea of a man who knew no other language. It was a choice. "But why?" Harrison sputtered, picking up the phone receiver. Why did you?" Mr. Tanaka turned from the window, his eyes cold. "I have a rule, Mr. Harrison. Before I do business with anyone, I test the foundation. I was told the Grand Elysium was the best, the most professional, that it catered to all international guests. So, I decided to arrive for my own multi-billion-dollar merger as a test." He walked slowly around the room, his presence completely dominating the space. "I came as myself," he continued, "but without the packaging, no limousine, no entourage, no $3,000 suit. I came as a man in distress, speaking my native tongue, to see how the best hotel in New York would handle a crisis, to see if you truly served your guests or just their wallets." He stopped in front of the cowering Mr. Harrison. "You," he said, his voice dangerously soft, "failed. You and your staff did not see a man in need. You saw a problem. You did not try to understand. You tried to remove. You were loud. You were condescending. And you were seconds away from assaulting the man who was trying to save another one of your high-value guests from being robbed." Harrison had no response. He just shook. "Your foundation is rotten, Mr. Harrison," Mr. Tanaka said, "and I will not do business in a house with a rotten foundation." He pulled out his own phone, dialed a number, and spoke. "Ah, Mr. Carlyle. Kellen Tanaka here. Yes, I'm afraid I have some very bad news about the manager of your New York flagship." Harrison sank to his knees. He was fired. He knew it. He wouldn't just be fired from the Elysium. He would be blackballed from the industry. Mr. Tanaka hung up. His gaze then fell on Matteo Reed, who was now being cuffed by Mike. "As for you, Mr. Reed," Tanaka said, "my team has been investigating a phantom in our Asian markets for 6 months. A man who forged credentials and stole from our subsidiaries. We knew he was skilled. We knew he was targeting this merger. We just didn't have a face. Or a name." He looked at Anna. "Until Miss O'Connor here connected the dots. She did in 10 minutes what my internal security team has been trying to do for half a year." Matteo Reed, broken and defeated, just stared at the floor as the NYPD officers arrived, led by Jessica. "This is all her fault," Matteo spat at Anna as the police hauled him to his feet. "You were nothing, a little girl in my office. I gave you a career." "You gave me a scapegoat," Anna retorted, her voice shaking, but full in her own fury. "You underestimated me then, Matteo, and you underestimated me today. You never thought to look for me in a waitress uniform. You never thought the people you step on your way up are the same ones who will be there to watch you fall. You'll be hearing from my lawyers," he shouted, as the elevator doors closed, sealing him away. The room was quiet again, save for David Brown, who was profusely apologizing to Mr. Tanaka in a mix of English and broken Japanese. Mr. Tanaka held up a hand. "Mr. Brown," he said, "the deal is not dead, but it will be restructured. My new representative will be in touch with you." Brown, profoundly grateful, nodded. "Of course, Mr. Tanaka. Of course. And Miss O'Connor." He turned to Anna. I don't know what to say. You saved my company. You saved me. If there is ever anything Apex Capital can do for you." "Thank you, Mr. Brown," Anna said quietly. "Now," Mr. Tanaka said, gesturing to the door, "if you will all excuse us. I believe Miss O'Connor and I have some things to discuss." Harrison, Brown, the police, and the hotel staff all filed out, leaving Anna and Mr. Tanaka alone in the massive penthouse suite. The wreckage of the morning, the shattered glass, the overturned briefcase, was all around them. Anna stood there in her black and white uniform, her hands clasped in front of her. She had just saved a $10 billion deal and brought her nemesis to justice. She felt exhausted. Mr. Tanaka walked to the minibar and pulled out 2 bottles of water. He handed one to her. "Please," he said, gesturing to the sofa. "Sit, Anna O'Connor." She sat. She suddenly felt like a waitress again, out of place in the opulent room. "I have already," Mr. Tanaka said, "had my team in Tokyo pull the files on the Shinjuku incident from 2 years ago. The embezzlement. They are very illuminating, especially now. Sir, You," he interrupted, "are a brilliant analyst. Your risk assessment models, they are still being used. Reed must have stolen them and passed them off as his own after you left." Anna's heart ached. "He stole everything." "No," Mr. Tanaka said, his eyes locking on hers. "He did not steal your mind. He did not steal your integrity. And he did not steal your courage. He just buried them for a little while." He sat across from her, a small, powerful man in a rumpled suit. "Anna-san," he said, switching back to Japanese, as if sharing a secret. "I am a man who believes that karma has a way of balancing the books, but sometimes she needs a little help." He switched back to English. "I am opening my new North American headquarters, here in New York. I came this week for 2 reasons: to finalize the merger with Mr. Brown, and to find the person who will run my new operation." Anna's breath caught in her throat. "I need," he said, "someone I can trust implicitly, someone who understands both Japanese and American corporate culture, someone who can see the details that everyone else misses, and most importantly, someone who is not afraid to speak up when they see an injustice, even when they are clearing tables." He leaned forward. "I believe I have found that person." Anna was speechless. "Mr. Tanaka, I'm a waitress. My reputation is—" "Your reputation," he said, "is about to be restored. My legal team will have the Japanese prosecutors reopen your case by tomorrow, with new evidence. Matteo Reed will confess to clear his name in that crime, in hopes of a lighter sentence for this one. By the end of the week, your name will be cleared, globally." He slid a heavy, linen stock business card across the table. "My car will pick you up tomorrow morning at 9. Not here," he said with a slight smile. "At your home. Wear a suit. You and I are going to go over the 5-year plan for Tanaka Global North America." Anna looked at the card. It just had his name and a private number. This is a job offer?" she whispered. Mr. Tanaka stood up and looked back out the window. "This is not a job offer, Miss O'Connor," he said. "This is a coronation. You are not a waitress. You are a warrior. You just forgot for a little while. welcome back to the world. The next morning, at 6 a.m., Anna O'Connor's alarm clock went off. The shrill, digital beep was the same sound that had, for 2 years, signaled the start of another day of invisibility, another day of squeaking orthopedic shoes and the smell of industrial-strength coffee. But this morning, Anna was already awake. She had been for hours, watching the pale, pre-dawn light creep into her tiny studio apartment. She sat up. The room, which had once felt like a protective shell, a place to hide from the world that had shattered her, now felt impossibly small. It was a cocoon she had just outgrown. She stood and walked to her small closet. On one side hung her black and white waitress uniform, freshly laundered, ready for a shift she would never work again. She looked at it for a long, hard moment, at the garment that had been both her shame and her camouflage. Then, deliberately, she took it off the hanger, folded it neatly, and placed it in the bottom of a plastic trash bag. She would not be disrespectful to it. It had, in its own way, saved her, but its purpose was served. From the very back of the closet, sealed in a garment bag, she pulled out the armor of her old life. It was a dark, charcoal grey suit with a subtle pinstripe, a sharply tailored, bespoke piece she had spent her first ever bonus on in Tokyo. She hadn't touched it in 734 days. She unzipped the bag, and the faint, sharp scent of cedar and her old, expensive perfume, a scent of confidence and ambition, hit her. She showered, and as the hot water washed away the last lingering scent of the hotel's industrial kitchen, she felt herself scrubbing away the last 2 years of fear. She was not the disgraced analyst. She was not the invisible waitress. They were roles she had been forced to play, but they were not her. She dressed, the silk blouse, the tailored trousers, the matching jacket. She slid her feet into black leather heels, not orthopedic flats. Finally, she looked in the peeling bathroom mirror. The woman who looked back was a stranger, and yet she was the only person Anna recognized. The slump in her shoulders, cultivated over 2 years of self-effacement, was gone. Her spine was straight. Her hair, usually tied back in a severe, functional bun, was down, falling in a way that framed her face. But it was her eyes that were the most changed. The downcast, apologetic gaze was gone. In its place was the sharp, appraising, and deeply intelligent stare of the analyst who had once managed a billion-dollar portfolio, the warrior Mr. Tanaka had seen. For a moment, a wave of vertigo hit her. Can I do this? The world she was about to step into was the same one that had chewed her up and spat her out. The world of men like Matteo Reed. She thought of Matteo in a holding cell. She thought of Mr. Tanaka's cold, appraising eyes. She thought of the perfect, flawless Japanese she had spoken. Yes, she whispered to her reflection. I can. At 8:59 a.m., her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown, encrypted number. It was one word. Downstairs. She picked up her old leather portfolio, the one thing she'd kept from her past, and walked out of her apartment for the last time. She didn't look back. The contrast was jarring. Her building's lobby was small, the linoleum peeling, but at the curb, a gleaming, black Mercedes S-Class sedan waited, so polished it reflected the cloudy sky. A driver in a flawless black suit stepped out, opened the rear door, and bowed his head slightly. Ms. O'Connor, good morning. Mr. Tanaka is expecting you. Ms. O'Connor! The honorific felt foreign, and yet perfectly right. She slid onto the plush leather seats. The car pulled away from the curb with a silent, electric hum, leaving her old life behind. As they drove from her modest neighborhood toward the glittering steel and glass heart of Midtown, Anna watched the city go by. For 2 years, she had only ever looked at the pavement, avoiding eye contact. Now, she found herself looking up, at the spires of the skyscrapers, at the names of the corporations emblazoned on them. She was no longer scurrying at their feet. She was about to join them. Her phone buzzed again. It was a news alert. The headline was stark. Griffin Capital CEO Matteo Reed denied bail in 10B merger fraud attempt. International warrants issued. A cold, quiet satisfaction settled over her. The first book was closed. The car didn't stop at a hotel. It stopped at a brand new skyscraper, a sheer tower of glass that seemed to pierce the clouds. The driver escorted her, not through a service entrance, but through the cavernous main lobby. The marble here was whiter, the ceilings higher, than at the Grand Elysium. But this time, Anna walked through it with her head held high, her heels clicking with purpose on the floor. No one stared. She belonged. They took a private, high-speed elevator. Her ears popped as it ascended, not stopping until it reached the 50th floor. The doors opened not onto a hallway, but onto a vast, empty space. It was the entire top floor, a blank canvas of concrete floors and 360-degree floor-to-ceiling windows. The city was laid out below them like a map. Mr. Kellen Tanaka stood by the southern window, looking downtown. He was wearing another simple, rumpled suit. He turned as she approached. "Ms. O'Connor," he said, greeting her with a respectful bow, which she returned. "A different perspective than the lobby, is it not?" "It's breathtaking, Mr. Tanaka." "This," he said, gesturing to the enormous empty space, "is the future North American headquarters of Tanaka Global. As you can see, it is unfinished." "It's a blank slate," Anna said, her mind already calculating the possibilities, the potential. "Indeed," he said, "and a foundation, as we discussed yesterday, is the most important part of any structure. I am in the business of building things that last. I find it is best to start with a strong, tested, and reliable cornerstone." He turned to face her fully. "I did not build my company by hiring the people who graduated at the top of their class. I built it by finding the ones who were overlooked, the ones who have integrity, the ones who have been tested by fire and were not consumed." He walked over to where a single folding table and 2 chairs had been set up. On the table was a thick, leather-bound portfolio and an iPad. "The position," he said, his voice formal, "is President of North American Operations. You will have full autonomy. You will build your own team. You will design this office. You will answer directly to me and to no one else." He named a salary that made Anna's breath catch, a figure that was more than triple her highest salary in Tokyo. "This is a non-negotiable, as it is what the position is worth, and it is what you are worth." Anna, who had rehearsed a small speech, found her throat dry. She met his gaze. There was no grand ceremony. This was business. "When do I start?" she asked. A small, rare smile touched Mr. Tanaka's lips. "You already have. Last night, in fact." He gestured to the iPad. "My legal team in Tokyo was very inspired by your story. They worked through the night. As of 1 hour ago, all charges against you in Japan have been formally dropped. The prosecutors have issued a public apology, citing new evidence, and a conspiracy to frame you by your former superior, Matteo Reed. Your name, Ms. O'Connor, is cleared, globally." For the first time, Anna's composure wavered. A single tear, hot with 2 years of stored grief and shame, rolled down her cheek. She did not wipe it away. It was a release. "Thank you," she whispered. "Do not thank me," he said firmly. "You earned this. Now, to business." He tapped the iPad. the Apex Capital deal. David Brown is, as you can imagine, profoundly embarrassed. He is also profoundly grateful. He has offered a 10% discount on the acquisition price as an apology. Anna's mind instantly snapped into focus. The analyst was back. That's a $10 billion deal. A 10% discount is $1 billion. It's a massive, reactionary concession. It is, Tanaka agreed, and we will not be accepting it. Anna looked up, surprised. We will pay the full original price, Tanaka said. We are not in the business of profiting from another man's panic. We are in the business of building strong partnerships. He slid the leather portfolio across the table. However, we will be restructuring the terms. Since we saved Mr. Brown's entire company, we are no longer just an investor. We are a partner. You will find my proposed new terms in that folder. I would like your analysis before our call with him. Our call at 2 p.m. Here, I will introduce you as the new president, and then you will lead the negotiation. Anna opened the portfolio. Her eyes scanned the dense legal and financial language. He wasn't just acquiring their new tech. He was asking for 2 seats on the Apex board and a controlling interest in their entire R&D division. It was a masterstroke. He won't just be our partner, Anna said, a slow smile spreading across her face. He'll be our subsidiary. Is it a good deal, Miss O'Connor? It's not a deal, Anna said, looking up. It's a checkmate. He'll agree. He has no choice. Excellent, Mr. Tanaka said. My car will retrieve your belongings from your apartment. The company has a penthouse suite at the Four Seasons for you until you find a more permanent residence. He walked toward the elevator, then paused. Oh, and one last thing. I sent a package to the Grand Elysium this morning, to Mr. Harrison's replacement. He was demoted to the night shift at their airport property. A package? Anna asked. A gift for the staff, a case of very expensive sake for their holiday party, and a new mandatory training module for all front-of-house employees in all of their hotels globally. Training, cultural sensitivity, and basic linguistics, starting with Japanese. I enclosed a note. What did it say? It said, Mr. Tanaka replied, that a hotel's foundation is not made of marble, it is made of its people, and to remember that the person serving your coffee may, in fact, be the most important person in the room. He gave her a final, respectful bow. Welcome, Anna-san. I will see you at 2. The elevator doors closed, leaving Anna O'Connor alone in her new office, 50 stories above the city. She walked to the window, portfolio in hand, and looked down at the world that had tried to erase her. She was no longer invisible. She was invincible. She opened the portfolio and got to work, and just like that, Anna O'Connor went from serving coffee to running a multi-billion-dollar corporation. She didn't just get a new job, she got her name back, her dignity back, and her life back. She proved that the people you ignore, the people you dismiss, are often the most powerful and brilliant people in the room. What did you think of Matteo Reed's ultimate downfall? Was it Mr. Harrison's arrogance that truly sealed his fate? Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of Anna's comeback story was. This is a reminder to never, ever judge someone by the uniform they wear. If you loved this story of karmic justice and a true underdog victory, please show your support by hitting that like button, share it with a friend who loves a good twist, and of course, be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you never miss another new story from our channel. We appreciate every one of you.